processes are like, what they're doing with their excess materials in order to support the localization of your products.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are all really thoughtful things. I would say too, if you don't want to be involved in the back end, if you're just like, I want to know something is like pretty easy, like I care how my things are made, seek out collectives. Like what I'm building here, the Conscious Crowd, see if your city has something similar, because chances are if you're joining a membership collective, the brands are going to be plugged into that too. You can ask them questions, and those are typically kind of fun to get involved with. Shopping and learning types of events. Visit my site, the Peahen, if you're based in Austin. I have tons of local brands highlighting these ladies, highlighting all different kinds of things in the city. So find writers in your city that are involved in that. You can look at the Ethical Writers and Creatives Coalition, and there's like a global map of where they all are. So there's probably one of us in your cities. So I will open us up to Q&A. Brave man first.
Good afternoon.
Hi, how's it going?
Fantastic. I've seen a lot of great seminars this week, and this is probably the one that's offered me the most value so far. So thank you for that.
That means a lot.
And partly because of how good you all are, and you're not just here to talk about your own businesses or whatnot, you're actually trying to give us genuine quality value. Mm-hmm. So that's great. But I know nothing about the fashion industry, but I am tempted to dip my toes in. And my question is, given the amount of resources you've given me today, I feel like I could probably walk out here and get started at some point. But
I love that.
Would
Come
you
back in
suggest?
6 months.
Sorry?
Come back in 6 months and show us.
Love to. Could be funny, like pink tracksuits and stuff. But would you suggest for someone like me that's interested to get into it, go to a manufacturer or one of these companies that are doing the whole, soup to nuts product development, manufacturing, or should I go to someone like yourselves for that kind of consulting, someone who can bridge the gap between someone that knows nothing to organization that's going to potentially help me make something?
Sure. I think your engagement on, it's really a preference. Do you need someone to walk you through, take your hand and walk you through each step? I then would prefer the consultant route. I'm actually, I think some of us are doing this, but Common Genius is a platform for consultants that will focus on, retail. And so if you want to engage with, a particular, someone who can do your product development for you, you can work that way. And they will actually, you can kind of look at what their expertise is based on what you're looking to create. And then that person could walk alongside of you to help you build your product. They may also be able to connect you with additional resources that maybe a particular manufacturer may not open you up to, because they're gonna want to manage the entire process themselves. And so as much as we want to build individual businesses, they may not give you a clear window into all of your options. So sometimes a consultant might give you more visibility without the need to, they're not looking for anything more than helping you get through the process.
Exactly, that's tremendous. Common Genius?
Common Genius, yeah. You should be able to search my name there, but.
Yeah, fantastic, appreciate it.
Excellent.
I would say also, if you have an idea you're kind of working on that you're not yet ready to take it to a manufacturer. I frequently will have a friend that's interested in producing a product come and they'll show me the sketch. Start with your sketch, show it to your friends, because if you know anyone that has worked in the apparel industry at all, they can give you some information about just some simple additions to this is how clothes are made. They might be like, where's the sleeve gonna go on? And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. So doing as much research with just potential customers or friends before you even go to a consultant or a full package manufacturer we talked about, just getting to know a little bit more about the way clothing is made, taking your own clothing and turning it inside out and being oh, I had no idea that this is how this was made, is incredibly educational and can be really helpful to begin to have more knowledge when talking to those people. So.
Yeah, and I would also add I took one fashion illustration class thinking that I was going to be a designer, and then I learned how intricate everything was, and I mentioned with Nina, how many steps there are. But I think if you speak the language, you won't get ripped off, right? If you go to a consultant and they know when they can take advantage and when they can't. watch a ton of YouTube videos on draping, on garment construction, on sketching, on all of that. Because, I mean, that would take you a day, right? Versus like actually being immersed in all of the classes. If you just know how to speak the language and you know what the cuts and things are, then it'll help. Next.
Hi everyone, thank you all for being here. Really enjoyed the panel, got so much out of it.
Thanks.
So I was curious, each city, like LA, New York, they all have their own character in a way in the fashion world. But if you kind of had to like have a fantasy about what would separate Austin and in the fashion community, what would the fashion world look like in Austin, and how would that be unique, and like what would you want to strive for in that?
I think Nina's already building that technically. Yeah. I mean, and I think what is going to make Austin, and you can speak more about this, is the technology side of it. She's basically, ACC is pioneering this new way of making clothes. I'm so excited as somebody who's made clothes forever. Like the idea of just being able to, like, I could have cried listening to changing a pattern in 3D, like how many things I've cut and like spread and split and everything, how many seams I've had to rip. Like, I just think that is what's going to separate Austin from LA and New York.
Absolutely. We're going to bring you back from Los Angeles. Honestly, I think to Sweta's point, Austin is just as known for technology and, as it is, culinary experiences, as well as, now fashion is becoming a major growth area here. And I think that we have a really great opportunity to distinguish ourselves as a high-tech solution to fashion and a truly viable way to reshore our industry. And I think that we'll be seeing a lot of change with how our customers are engaging with our product. A lot of what makes Austin special is that people get a chance to engage with niche designers around a very specific community. And I think that it allows designers to reach businesses in a small batch way without the typical overhead costs it takes to do small run production. I think this is a really special way for us to be able to distinguish ourselves in the market with the high quality as well as a high-tech solution. So that's what I see.
And I would also add, this is something we talked about even just planning for this session, but like you look at the US map and Austin's like right in the center, right? Like how convenient. We could ship, like we could be that central hub for the rest of the United States. So that's one thing. And then I also think the city has a really like distinct aesthetic and a look that you're not getting out of New York or out of LA. It's casual, but it's also these like softer kind of pastel colors. It's laid back. So I think that will start to inform other cities, and they might start to the trends will trickle out that way. And that's something that really excites me.
I think you can also see from like a retail scene that you'll see the way that Austin, like we know of Austin as like a food truck heavy city. Mm-hmm. And you've also seen a lot of companies start as food trucks and grow this huge following, and now they're restaurants. We're starting to see that with designers too. Yeah. Like Miranda Bennett has been designing in Austin for probably 10 years. She just opened her first retail store on the east side. And so to me, as a designer, I love the idea of these sort of this organic growth internally where the city is really supporting. I mean, she sells wholesale across the country and internationally as well. But that the city, she has enough people shopping here that she can now add a retail store here. So to me, there's that small growth component as well that I feel like really fits with the city. Yeah, experiential retail is another big thing. If you walk around downtown, there's like different stores where you can go in and they're like, oh, by the way, nothing's for sale here. So I've walked in and I'm like, but I want it now, and it's kind of sad. But at the same time, that is the future of retail, and it's cool to see Austin on the precipice of that.
Cutting edge. Yeah. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Of course.
Thank you for the debate and your sincerity, your enthusiasm, and your authenticity. In order to attract bigger companies to manufacture local, you have also to talk to them about cost, and not only, unfortunately, about ethics. Do you know any studies, or do you conduct any studies on the full cost of a collection compared locally and abroad? Because many companies think about the cost of a garment, a single garment, without paying attention for the full cost of the stock, the quality problem, the fact that you need to do rebates because you have huge collections. Do you know if there are anything like that in order to convince them to manufacture more locally? Thank you.
That's a good question.
That's a great question. I heard a couple of things in there. One is attracting larger manufacturers to Austin. Why do they come? And I think one of the reasons why they could potentially come is because there's enough labor capacity. There's certain kinds of jobs that you do not move, you don't relocate people into an area for. You have to build it internally, and for workforce development, that's really what we're focused on with the Austin Community College programming, is focus on a real to industry experience that prepares people to go to work. Now, the idea is that we are able to build a critical mass of those skilled workers to fill our local manufacturers first, and then as we expand that and we're looking for additional places for our people to work, that really does say to outside manufacturers that there's room for them to be able to relocate their businesses here. They're not spending money training people. They're not spending money trying to get people to adopt new technologies. They're already trained, they're already ready to go. The other side of that is volume. And volume, the issue around that is having enough local business as well as external business that drives the viability of a manufacturer's volume and production capacity. So without the jargon, is there enough work to do? Period. Are there enough collections to make? And the more that we're able to develop startup designers who are genuinely interested in scaling. Not all of us are. Some people are makers and they enjoy making and they want to make 5 of them and they want to sell them to all of their best friends, and that is perfectly okay. That is beautiful. That is a wonderful thing to do. However, manufacturers need to know that they're going to have volume because where they're making money is in the numbers, right? And so we want to be able to produce we want to be able to create the opportunity to make this a viable option. The other part, and I think that a lot of my other co-panelists have mentioned this, is that we're located centrally. So where they've been spending a lot of money shipping overseas, now their shipping costs are dramatically reduced by being centrally located. And so that also makes us a viable option as well. So I think that people are kind of looking at it from a variety of areas, but we're really thinking about logistics, cost of the collection, which is truly, it's going to differ between product. Your shift dress is going to be very different than producing blazers, or outerwear. But by and large, I think that where we're looking at is gainful workforce, skilled workforce, volume, enough product, and then logistics.
Yeah, I think part of this is, we did used to make a lot of clothes, and a lot of people used to sew themselves. And now it's kind of asking the question of, and the reason things moved offshore was because it became too expensive to make things here. But prices are going up, and then you have customs and all those other things. I think we won't really see the effect of how localized manufacturing can actually lower your costs and time, and like the mistakes that happen or things that get lost and et cetera. Mm-hmm. I don't think we'll really see the value of that until we actually bring that, until we actually start doing that. So I think there's a lot to see in a lot more value created in having it local. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, I think if we were to do research, it would just tell you that Made in America is very expensive comparatively right now. So I would say come back to us in a few years. But yeah.
Well, the tariff situation may make that a difference. So we'll have to just keep our eyes peeled for how that develops.
Larger manufacturers too bringing like a percentage of their business back to the US. I think of like Eileen Fisher has a large percentage of their products are produced internationally, but they also are starting to produce a bigger percentage of domestically. So you do see companies exploring it, but obviously not being like, we're taking it all back to the US. They're taking a percentage of their work back here for certain particular products. Yeah. So I think there's proof of it.
Yeah, it's changing. Get our emails afterwards. We'll follow up with you. Anyone else? Yeah.
I was just going to say the consumer will also drive, the functionality. Just because even in talking about what you're talking about from a sustainability standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. You look at that whole generation and driving that as they get along for it. And we've seen it with, you know, the transparency through Everlane and Eileen Fisher and, you know, all those kind of things. So as that goes out into the community and creates these larger voices, just like anything else, it will drive that. So I think it's very exciting for all.
Yeah. Thanks. Did anyone go to the presentation yesterday on StockX? It's a retail company, and they're trying to create a stock market for fashion. But basically, his argument was like, okay, you have all these resale, you know, sites. I'm a vintage curator, so I'm like, oh, I'm active on all of these things. But it was interesting because it was like, we don't set. How do you determine the value of something that's resale? And he's like, we let the market drive those prices. So, I mean, eventually that idea could trickle into regular fashion. Who knows? Yeah, interesting times, right? I think we are all out of time. We're exactly at time. Look at that. Thank you all so much for coming. Come up and talk to us after if you have more questions. Thank you.